In most cultures, fear is a natural reaction. In Sparta, it was a death sentence. Spartans believed fear was not just weakness. They believed it was contagious. If one soldier fled, others might follow. So they built a system where fear had no place to hide. Not in children, not in soldiers, not even in thought. From the age of 7, Spartan boys were taken from their families and thrown into the Agoge, a brutal training system designed to break the soft parts of the human mind. The goal wasn't to build strength, it was to erase doubt. The Agoge had one primary mission: to make fear impossible. Boys were starved, beaten, and isolated. But this wasn't punishment. It was policy. They were encouraged to steal food, but only if they didn't get caught. Because in Sparta, failure was punished harder than wrongdoing. If a boy was caught, he wasn't reprimanded for stealing. He was whipped for being sloppy. The lesson wasn't about morality, it was about performance. One boy famously stole a fox to eat. When he was caught, he let the fox bite into his stomach, silently, so he wouldn't be discovered. He died from internal bleeding, but he never cried out. In Sparta, that was the measure of success. Pain wasn't private, it was spectacle. Public punishments were a teaching tool. A young boy who cried during a flogging wasn't just mocked. He was seen as defective. His parents were shamed. His future in the military was compromised. But the real fear wasn't the whip. It was being labeled a coward. In Spartan society, cowardice followed you forever. Spartans who fled battle were stripped of their rights. They couldn't vote. They couldn't marry. They were forced to wear mismatched clothing. Grown men would have to shave off half their beard to announce their shame to the world. Even children were taught to ridicule them in the streets. They weren't just punished. They were erased from the community. This wasn't just social pressure. It was psychological warfare. Sparta trained its citizens to see fear as a terminal illness. One act of hesitation, and your legacy was ruined. Your family name dragged through the mud. Your voice silenced in the assembly. No redemption, no second chance. This constant pressure did something extraordinary. It rewired Spartan identity. By adulthood, a Spartan man didn't fear pain. He feared dishonor. He didn't dread wounds. He dreaded weakness, and most importantly, he didn't flinch from battle. Because to retreat was to vanish. Even the state funerals reflected this mindset. Only 2 groups were allowed to have their names inscribed on their gravestones: women who died in childbirth and men who died in battle. Everyone else was forgotten. Because Sparta had no room for memory without sacrifice. The discipline was so absolute, so embedded, that Spartans did not need orders to stand firm. They were trained to believe there was no other option. A Spartan phalanx did not break. Not because every man was brave, but because the system had made fear more painful than death. This wasn't courage. This was control. And that's what made Sparta different. Most civilizations train for strength. Sparta trained for obedience. Most armies rely on tactic. Sparta relied on terror. The terror of failing your city, your brothers, your code. It wasn't just the battlefield that mattered, it was the invisible war inside the mind. Sparta won that war early, in the Agoge, in the beatings, in the silence of the fox clawing through a boy's ribs, in the exile of cowards, in the eyes of every child who learned that pain was not personal, it was expected. This wasn't a warrior culture, it was a punishment system, and it worked. Because by the time a Spartan stepped onto the battlefield, fear had already died.